Donald Trump and his administration, they can't even dismiss a criminal indictment the right way. And now they've embroiled themselves in yet another scandal going into the first 4 weeks of their administration, this time involving Mayor Eric Adams, a bribery scandal within a bribery scandal. Perfect fodder for Legal AF After Dark. Take a listen.
I've often said that Trump's corruption is matched by his incompetence, and that is on full display this week as he not only has hired the worst people in connection with the legal matters, Department of Justice and elsewhere, but also some of the most incompetent people. And we're actually now seeing a mass exodus, a mass resignation of the competent people, even the competent, conservative, MAGA adjacent federal prosecutors are saying, you must think I'm a fool if you want me to do some of the things that the attorney general and the deputy attorney general are ordering us to do here in the various federal prosecutorial divisions. So let's cover first the mass resignations of some of these federal prosecutors, both in the Southern District of New York, as well as in Main Justice in the public integrity section. But first, I want to just remind everybody as we go through this theme, incompetence and corruption, who is Donald Trump's attorney general? Donald Trump's personal lawyer, Pam Bondi, who represented him in the first Trump administration during the impeachment proceedings. Now, you may not be a lawyer watching this, but you've seen lawyers make oral arguments before. Let me show you Pam Bondi's in the Senate at the impeachment trial. Let's play it.
He remained on the board until April of 2019. We also know that.
Now, I'm a law professor and I teach both law students as well as undergrad students. Now, if that was the very first presentation that my undergrad students gave, I'd probably still give them a B- to a C. It'd be a failing score for a law student, that's for sure. That's our attorney general, who also this week announced that she was filing charges against the New York governor as well as the New York Attorney General, Letitia James. Let me play for you a portion of this so you can see the announcement. Let's play it.
We're here today because we have filed charges against the state of New York. We have filed charges against Kathy Hochul. We have filed charges against Letitia James and Mark Schroeder, who is with DMV. This is a new DOJ, and we are taking steps to protect Americans, American citizens, and angel moms, like the mom standing right behind me, who you're going to hear from in a moment. New York has chosen to prioritize illegal aliens over American citizens. It stops today. As you know, we sued Illinois, and New York didn't listen. So now you're next.
Okay, well, there actually weren't charges that were filed when she made the announcement. Actually, nothing was filed. It turned out that a civil lawsuit was filed based on a 2019 law that existed during the first Trump administration. And it does none of the things that she said she was doing, as she was using parents who had horrific stories as props on the stage. That's a commonality of the Trump administration. You think about Elon Musk using his, little kid as a prop as the kid taunts Donald Trump. So, Popok, I want to show you one other clip, and we'll break all of this down. It's kind of a 1 + 1 = 2 kind of thing, so where you have that level of incompetence, that level of corruption. What it leads to, what it equals, is somebody like New York Mayor Eric Adams, who engaged in a massive bribery scheme with foreign countries, overwhelming evidence in recent Department of Justice filings. They talked about that they got even more evidence about the severity of the crimes, even more bribes than they initially expected. But a quid pro quo was entered between Trump and his Justice Department and Eric Adams, that Eric Adams would just have to do basically whatever MAGA wanted, whatever Trump wanted, and they would basically control him. They would dismiss his criminal case without prejudice, but they would control him. So then he and Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, went on Fox, and just the brazen criminality as they laugh about the deal that was entered, which led to the resignations of a lot of conservative lawyers from the Justice Department and from SDNY. Play this clip.
If he doesn't come through,
you're up early anyway.
if he doesn't come through, I'll be back in New York City, and we won't be sitting on the couch. I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, "Where the hell is the agreement we came to?" So,
I want ICE to deliver, and I want ICE to deliver. We're going to deliver for the safety of the people of this city.
Right.
Michael Popok, welcome to Legal AF. Everybody, welcome to
And welcome to my own show. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. So let me. Yeah. So Eric Adams. Let's start there. And Pam Bondi. I know both of them reasonably well. I donated to Eric Adams. I met him in person when he was campaigning originally, before all the corruption scandals broke out. Pam Bondi, I was in Florida when she was the Attorney General, worked under two different governors. She's not qualified to be leading the Department of Justice. As you said, if she was in a moot court competition, she'd come in dead last. She's not articulate. Her thought process is often mangled and muddied. But let's be frank with the American people. You and I like to look them in the eye, not blow smoke or sunshine. The Attorney General of the United States is not Pam Bondi. The Secretary of State of the United States is not Marco Rubio. Treasury Secretary of the United States is not Scott Bessent. It's a combination of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And that is who is running. They've said it out loud. They said the quiet part out loud a while ago. They said that the chief law enforcement officer for the United States is Donald Trump as the head of the executive branch, and everybody is under him. These are all just meat puppets that are just tasked by a combination of Trump. I think his mouthpiece for most of this is Stephen Miller, who's the White House counsel, one of the White House counselors, who gives the marching orders to these people and tells them what to do and what to say and who to sue and what positions to take and what press release to give out in order to look like they're tough on something. And the one that I liked a lot when you talk about the weapons of mass distraction, because that's all we're watching. It is already in the first 3 weeks what I consider to be the beginnings of a failed presidency. Accomplishing nothing for the American people. The 119th Congress isn't doing a darn thing about kitchen table politics or what's important to people's purses or pocketbooks. Not one law has been passed to help them, nor will it be in the first 100 days or the last 100 days. And Donald Trump's not going to accomplish anything other than implementing the Heritage Foundation, arch conservatives, Christian right conservative values, making good on campaign promises for which he put up his presidency up for sale. And we've seen since the election, it's hard to believe that was November 5th, we've seen that Donald Trump considers himself to be a short tracker. He's got a short time horizon here. I mean, literally has a short time horizon, given his age, but he has a short time horizon because he knows that it's likely that based on what he's trying to do now with the limited time that he has, that he's going to be run out on a rail, or at least the Senate and Congress will be at the midterms. He's worried about that. He's trying to do maximum damage in the shortest amount of time possible. The other thing that he cares about, to paraphrase Ty Cobb, one of his former lawyers, is that there's two sins that motivate Donald Trump. You touched on one of them. One of them is the sin of greed. The other is the sin of retribution. And what we're watching time and time again as the distraction, the distracting moments, the shiny objects, let's buy Greenland or take it by force. Let's buy Panama Canal or take it by force. Let's turn our back on our allies in trade and in security and in military operations, while we let Elon Musk take a sledgehammer to things that are important to our way of life, to the things that are important to red states more than even blue states. And then you blame Elon Musk down the road if he can. While he's doing all of that, the Trump family since November 5th has made over $200 million. Over $200 million have lined their pockets. Melania, $40 million deal with Amazon, owned by Jeff Bezos. He paid 3 times more than the next highest bidder, which was Disney. Okay. Why? The delta, I suggest, is a bribe. $40 million to Melania. That Trump meme coin, $ Trump, that is now trading at about $17, $18 from some high. I'll tell you who made money. 2 people, 2 entities. The Trump family made $100 million brokerage fee. Just broker the buy and the sell of the meme coin since it was launched. Doesn't matter what happened to the price of the stock. To the meme coin. He's making it on the VIG. That's $100 million. And there's some Bitcoin or crypto wallet in China that on day one made $100 million on a $1 million purchase. Insider trading, who knows? But those are the only ones. 8 out of 10 of the other investors all have lost a considerable amount of money. And then you add in the money that Donald Trump is getting from the social media platforms, including yesterday, a $10 million payment from Elon Musk, who works for him. Where is the ethics in government when you get rid of the government ethics head and all the watchdogs? There isn't any. And Donald Trump is taking full advantage of the fact that there is no conflict of interest that a president is found to have. He doesn't need an ethics plan, so he's taking full effect. Elon Musk just gave and is about to settle a case that was dismissed by the trial court, was likely to lose at the appeal court just to pay off Donald Trump, which is a pittance to how much Elon Musk has made, because he's doubled his wealth by $250 billion after buying a presidency for $200 million. So you add up all of these Meta settlements and Amazon settlements or payments and then I haven't even turned to how much Don Jr. and Eric have made by being placed on boards of companies and gotten stock in return and watching that stock skyrocket because they're trying to curry favor with Donald Trump. The Biden crime family, we're watching the Trump crime family robbing banks in plain daylight. And so is it a shock to me as a native New Yorker to see that Donald Trump figured out that there was a way transactionally to go after Eric Adams, that he had an Achilles heel, a guy that was indicted, not only indicted for bribery related to the Turkish government trying to get its consulate approved and have the fire department and the building department look the other way, because the building wasn't ready. The building wasn't safe. That's the bribery aspect of it. But there's a bribery inside of the bribery, because now we've got the reporting that you and I have been doing here and on Legal AF that they decided after a meeting between the lawyer for Eric Adams, who's a lawyer for Elon Musk, Alex Spiro, and Emil Bove, the former criminal lawyer for Donald Trump, who's now the number 2 henchman running around. Those two got together, criminal lawyer to criminal lawyer, and figured out, here's what we're going to do. We're going to dismiss the case, but without prejudice, so we can bring it again if he doesn't get rid of the sanctuary city status for New York and do what Tom Homan tells him to do. The guy you just saw on Fox and Friends couch next to Eric Adams. That's called extortion. That is the reason seven prosecutors have all resigned, including the heads of the Public Integrity Unit in Washington and the acting U.S. attorney in Manhattan, because they're not willing to participate in the extortion of a public official by the federal government and Donald Trump. And so, and the last thing on that point before I turn it back to you is what came out of the letter, the resignation letter by Denise Sassoon, who was the acting U.S. attorney for Manhattan, the Southern District of New York, is that they asked for permission from Pam Bondi to re-indict Eric Adams just in the last week because of new evidence that he had destroyed evidence and lied to the FBI. Not only were they not interested in dismissing the case for political and commercial reasons, they wanted to re-indict Eric Adams based on new evidence. Of course, that got rejected. And now we are where we are. So I'm fired up today, Ben.
Fired up as well. I think it's a Danielle Sassoon.
Yeah.
And just so people know what her background is, She wrote in her resignation letter, she clerked for the Honorable Harvey Wilkinson III of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit. You don't get more right-wing and conservative than Judge Wilkinson, for those who know who he is. And then she also clerked for Justice Scalia, who was on the United States Supreme Court, and as far right-wing, although who knows what he would look like in today's right-wing court. She says in her letter that both men instilled in me a sense of duty to contribute to the public good and uphold the rule of law and a commitment to reasoned and thorough analysis. I have always considered it my obligation to pursue justice impartially without favor to the wealthy or those who occupy important public office, or harsher treatment for the less powerful. And this is a powerful statement made by Danielle Sassone in her resignation from that position. I mean, to give some of our legal AFers background, it's very hard to get those jobs. Clerking for the Supreme Court is, only the top law students from the top law schools can even compete to even be considered. It's like being in the Olympics. There's a small group of people in terms of being a law student, and, someone who pursues that path, they usually clerk at a circuit court of appeals first, get a recommendation, then try to clerk at the Supreme Court. And that puts them on a track usually to be top lawyers within the Department of Justice and private practice, which they may go back and forth, then take more senior roles in those various areas. Ultimately, that's where our judges and circuit court judges and Supreme Court justices once upon a time came from. I say once upon a time because, certainly Trump's probably going to pick highly unqualified people who don't have any credentials, because if you have credentials, even working for old school right-wing judges or justices, you're still instilled with some of these concepts which Trump just wants to absolutely destroy. And so, she was on a career path, and her resignation when she was forced to do this, even if you look at it from a selfish perspective about her career advancement and some of the other top lawyers who have been resigning from the Justice Department, you can say on the one hand, yes, they pursued this selflessly and they put the law above the orders. Yeah, I think that's one way to view it. Even if you viewed it selfishly, though, I think it gives you some sense of hope that these top lawyers are seeing a world in the future where doing these things will be a scarlet letter on their career advancement. And they see a future where anybody who follows these types of orders will be deemed a fool or a crook and be banished from polite society or the legal community. I mean, her underling, who's a top lawyer as well, though, a guy named Hagen Scotton, I think he got 2 bronze medals. He served admirably in combat. He clerked for Justice John Roberts. He's an assistant at that same office, the Southern District of New York. He resigned, and in his resignation, he says, look, if no lawyer within the earshot of the president is willing to give him that advice, that what he's doing is illegal, then I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion. But it was never going to be me. And in this Hagen Scotton letter, it's interesting because he goes, look, I can understand how a chief executive, how Donald Trump, whose background is in business and politics, might see dismissing a case could give you leverage. I can see why they would think that this could be a good deal, but that's not what we as lawyers do. So any assistant U.S. attorney who would carry that out, who knows what the law is, and who would not tell him, no, you can't do that, you're almost worse, is what he's saying. And so he's sending a message to who we saw at the beginning of this episode, Pam Bondi, the attorney general, as well as Emile Bove, who was also Donald Trump's lawyer in the criminal case where Trump was convicted on 34 felony counts in New York. Emile Bove is the deputy attorney general, and he brought in all of these lawyers into the public integrity section of Washington, D.C., and basically said, I'm firing everybody unless I need somebody to dismiss this action. So just the kind of events that transpired was they asked SDNY, there's different, just so you all know, there's the main Justice Department in Washington, D.C., right? And then there are federal courts throughout the country. So, for example, there's a Central District of California, a Northern District of California, a Southern District of California. In New York, there is a Southern District of New York, an Eastern District of New York, a Northern District of New York. There are different districts in different states. Some states that are smaller only have one district. And then for each district court, you have a Department of Justice department or division in that state, and they're responsible and have a great deal of autonomy over that state. And then they report to Main Justice, which is in Washington, D.C. But ultimately, what Main Justice is supposed to give those individual departments in the different states their autonomy to prosecute. And they're not supposed to interfere with it at all. There are some protocols where maybe Main Justice gets involved, but they're not supposed to interfere at all. So here, Main Justice in D.C. was ordering the Southern District of New York prosecutors. The acting head was a right-wing lawyer, Danielle Sassone, who's like, a MAGA adjacent. She's a right-wing person. Hey, you got to dismiss this case against Eric Adams. She said no. They said, you better do it. She resigned. Then a bunch of other lawyers there resigned. And then the Department of Justice in D.C., because no one in New York would file it, they said, okay, transfer it over to Washington, D.C., and we're going to have our public integrity division. We're taking over the case, which is that in and of itself is unprecedented. And SDNY is one of the most exalted offices too. So like the fact that Main Justice would punch at SDNY like that's crazy, yet alone for this type of thing. Main Justice takes it, says public integrity, you dismiss it. And then when they're informed, John Keller, who was the acting head of public integrity, he resigns. Kevin Driscoll, the next highest person, he resigns. And then finally, they put everybody in a room, and some guy named Ed Sullivan basically he's like, look, I'll file it, because he didn't want everybody else to have to resign and get fired. And they wanted to keep some people in the department who would still be able to be guardrails for the law in a Trump administration. So they're going to get it filed.
Welcome back. Ben Meiselas and me, we got together 5 years ago. We said we got to sit at the intersection of law and politics, and we should do a show. It started out as Legal Roundup, and within about a week, we came up with Legal AF. And if you don't know why we called it that, well, you have a pretty good inkling now. Wednesdays and Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Meiselas YouTube channel. It's hard to believe, with your help, really, with your investment in us, we're top 8 in the world, regardless of the type of podcast. It's humbling, and we appreciate you. If you know about Legal AF, you're part of our audience. We stand on your shoulders. If you're not part of us, or you know people who don't know about Legal AF, we're only growing organically. We have no marketing department. You've seen our shoestring budget. I buy my own microphones, but we could use your help. We are people powered, Legal AFer and Midas Mighty powered. So take a minute and subscribe both to the Legal AF YouTube channel and to the Midas Touch YouTube channel. And we'll be there for you Wednesdays and Saturdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time and on all podcast platforms. Until then, I'm Michael Popok, and I'm reporting. In collaboration with the Midas Touch Network, we just launched the Legal AF YouTube channel. Help us build this pro-democracy channel where I'll be curating the top stories, the intersection of law and politics. Go to YouTube now and free subscribe at Legal AF MTN. That's at Legal AF MTN.